Our next speaker, she's from Chennai. She's one of those most talented persons who has done not only radiology as a career, but also she's done the medical law and ethics diploma certificate also from the National Law School. She has a long list of achievements, including starting her career as a resident at the BJ Medical College itself, where she graduated, post-graduated, and she went on further and did her residency program, and thereafter went on to do all the other things that she has achieved in life. She has numerous publications to her credit. And not only that, she is also the founder member of interventional interventional radiology, the branch of our conventional radiology, which is started, and there are very few people these days who are practicing interventional radiology. And she's also trained in cardiac as well as neuroradiology from Sri Chitra. You can imagine somebody who's had a career checkered from BJ, going to Sri Chitra and doing law from National Law School, how good it would be. And what has happened over the year? We started our career as a radiologist, diagnostic radiologist in '83 in Gangaram Hospital with a CT scan machine. That was the first CT scan, whole body CT scan machine that came to India. We started working from that, and what were we interested in? We were interested in, well, let's reach the diagnosis, let's attend to our patients. But what was important, which has slowly creeped into the entire system, is quality management. Quality management is related to every aspect of it, turnaround time. What do you do with the patients in emergency reports? Do you inform the consultants? How do you transmit the data that is available to you? And all these factors have creeped in because quality has become a kind of a inward kind of a thing today in the field of all the medicine, whether it is radiology, pathology, or anything. So I invite Dr. Swati to kindly share screen and give her presentation on the quality management in radiology. Thank you. Thank you, Swati.
First of all, thank you very much, Dr. Anila and Kaho, for giving me this opportunity to talk on a completely different subject, which I have never ventured. And Anila is really a quality friend, both in friendship quality and as a quality person also in our hospital. She guides me through all these things. So let's see first one or two slides which are a little more theoretical. And after that, I will just show how practically we go through all this quality management in radiology. First of all of us know that quality is a team effort. It is not done by just the top head of the management or just by the housekeeping person of the department. It is the entire team, from the housekeeping person to the head of the department of radiology to the head of the management institute. All of them are involved in this maintaining quality, because it is doing the right thing at right time in the right way for the right person and having the best possible results. So this is achievable only with team effort. It is not one person's job at all. And that actually means that we are providing a timely access to and delivery of integrated and appropriate radiological studies and interventions in a safe and responsive facility. So you should have all the infrastructure and expertise to carry out all these things, and then give an accurately interpreted report. For that, you need very good radiologists who are good in diagnostics as well as who are updating their knowledge continuously. And you need a good IT backup also to give your reports in a correct manner by using PACS and sending them as fast as possible to the referring physician as well as a patient. Now, coming to the STEEP principle, which is very famous in quality management, and that means that S is safe, timely, effective, efficient, equitable, and patient-centered. So if we follow all these steps in our daily practice, we are walking towards achieving the goal of quality management in radiology. So first of all, our Hippocrates oath, that we should cause no harm to the patient. So there should be no harm to the patient before, during, or after the radiology procedure. So safety is first, means there is no compromise on safety. Then timely scheduling of investigation and accurate interpretation, of course, comes there, because without accurate interpretation, what is the meaning of doing the radiology investigation? Similarly, since radiology department nowadays is full of so many modalities with so many subspecialties in that, choosing the correct imaging modality is very important. Like for example, if you have a 30-year-old woman and you ask a mammogram test for her in X-ray mammogram, it is not correct because that lady's breast will be so dense because of glandular parenchyma that you won't see anything. For that lady, we need to do sonomammogram. So like this, we have to keep on choosing the modality which is correct for that person and his disease. Now coming to the radiation dose and examination protocol, radiation dose is also very important because radiation safety is a big quality factor in radiology. Radiation dose matters both for the patient as well as for the technicians or doctors who are performing the procedure also, because they are getting exposed to this radiation on a professional basis day to day. Patient gets exposed once in a while. And examination protocols have to be tailored according to the need of the patient so that we reduce the radiation and time in the radiology department as much as possible. Now, these are the 9 steps on the quality map of the radiology. That is, first ordering the examination by the physician, then scheduling the appointment, patient arrives and we have to give arrival of the patient because then only we can calculate the waiting time of the patient in which is a quality monitor. Then choosing appropriate modality, as I said before, you choosing appropriate parameters, extent of anatomic coverage. That means if you are doing a chest CT scan, usually we cover it up to the adrenals because CA bronchus is getting metastasized to the adrenal glands and it's a common entity. So we want to cover adrenal glands. So these are some protocols. Or if you are doing abdomen, you have to cover it from diaphragm up to the pubic symphysis. So anatomic coverage is very important. Then choice of sequences or phases. Like for example, if you are trying to see hemangioma of the liver on a CT scan and you want to diagnose it, you will have to do a triple phase CT. That means you are acquiring in arterial phase, you are acquiring in portal venous phase, and then you are acquiring in the delayed phase. Or if you are doing MRI scan for a patient of CSF rhinorrhea, ordinary MRI scan is not going to diagnose that. You will have to do some special sequences to see that. Same case is the thing with trigeminal neuralgia, that ordinary MRI scan may not show you exactly where the trigeminal nerve is crossed or indented by the artery. So that is what is important, and that choice of sequence is very important. And use of contrast media judicially, not in every single patient. Performing the examination correctly, interpreting it correctly, finalizing the report, and most importantly, communicating that report. Especially critical reports have to be communicated immediately to the referring physician, and radiographers as well as radiologists should know what are the critical results which have to be told to the referring physician. And finally, we have to assess the final outcome, that how we are exactly doing. This is all about the theory. And now let's see how practically we can go into quality control of radiology and how we do it in our department. We take some pre-analytical steps, then analytical steps, then post-analytical steps. After that, radiology has a lot of legal requirements, especially from Atomic Energy Regulatory Board, as well as from the PCPNDT Act. Then we have quality monitors, which see our performance in radiology. We have radiation safety protocols, and which are very, very important, especially if you have a nuclear medicine department in your department, then you have all the more stricter and stringent precautions you have to take. As well as, last but not the least, staff competence and training repeatedly is very important to reach the goal of quality. Now coming to some examples of pre-analytical steps. The first and most important is to check for the clinical appropriateness, whether that test is appropriate in that setting. For example, if patient has come and she is within the first trimester of the pregnancy and they have asked for MRI scan of the patient, so we will talk to the clinician and tell that it is not proved to be safe or unsafe, so it is better to avoid. So that kind of clinical appropriateness, or if they are asking for CT venogram for seeing varicose veins, it is a useless test. So we have to tell them that no, it is Doppler which will show it and not the CT scan. So clinical appropriateness is the first thing, to see that we are doing correct thing and we are causing no harm to the patient. We are not doing any unjustified investigation on the patient. Then scheduling the patient for and giving correct instructions is very important. Calling the patient for abdominal ultrasound and not asking patient to be fasting is quite stupid. I'll show you some examples where patient eats and comes and you see collapsed gallbladder. There you are missing all the gallstones which are sitting there. Then when you do contrast enhanced MRI and CT scans, you have to check for renal functions because the contrast media are nephrotoxic, as well as you have to ask patient for fasting for at least 3 to 4 hours before the investigation. If you are doing pelvic ultrasound, we have to ask the patient to come with full bladder, then only you have a window to see uterus and adnexa or prostate in the patient. Taking history like previous surgeries is very important, because otherwise by mistake in the normal format it goes that gallbladder is seen normally, it shows no evidence of calculi, and actually patient has undergone cholecystectomy. Or if uterus has been removed and the report goes like that. I'll show you some examples of that. Checking for the prior investigations so that you get some idea what you are exactly dealing with, what patient has problem. Then asking for allergy prior to contrast is also very important, because contrast media are known to cause immunological allergic reactions, and sometimes they can be anaphylactic shocks also. Proper dressing to avoid artifacts sounds funny, but it is very commonly occurring things, because even the small zari on the dress can cause artifact in the plain X-rays and CT scans. And even the mascara or the eyeliners which are used for eye makeup may have some ferromagnetic substances, and that causes artifact in MRI scan. So proper dressing and to instruct patients for artifacts is very important. Last and not least, checking the name and UHID before doing investigations, especially in South India when we practice. There are some very common names like Subramanyam and Srinivasan and all. And when you call in the corridor, there will be at least 5 Srinivasan sitting. So there you have to be very careful to see that patient's name and UHID is matching. Otherwise, you can assign one Srinivasan's X-ray to another Srinivasan and vice versa. 10-day rule is followed in radiology department very strictly. All the women of fertile age group are asked for the last menstrual period, so that we see to it that patient is not likely to be pregnant, especially in that blastula morula early weeks of pregnancy, where they are extremely susceptible for radiation hazard. Now, this is some examples of clinical appropriateness in my practice, that you can see that they have asked for ultrasound breast for a very young patient. So I have written here that not necessary, since patient is less than 40 years and has no complaints of mass. There is no palpable mass, so it is not necessary. We do have a stamp of clinical appropriateness, and there I write, no, it is not clinically appropriate. We will convert it to sonomammogram. Similarly, this is another patient sent by a neurologist, and he has asked for MRI brain here. But I have written to him that patient's EDD, LNP is 12th July, and this was somewhere in September. So I said, this is first trimester, and it is better that we avoid this if possible. We will not do CT or MRI scan unless patient is ready to take the risk involved. Now, this is some consents during pregnancy. This was one patient who had thymoma and myasthenia gravis crisis, and they wanted CT chest, but patient was pregnant for 2 months like that. But then when we asked, they said, no, they are planning for the MTP because patient is not able to carry out the pregnancy with this myasthenia gravis. And then only we took the patient. Similarly, this patient was pregnant, but she had fracture. So we had to take consent. And as you all know, that the best consent is when patient is writing in her own handwriting and signing. So it becomes the most official consent. So she has given the consent that I know that there is a hazard, but I'm ready to take the risk. Now, these are some avoidable mistakes, as I was telling you. This is completely contracted gallbladder. Hardly any lumen is seen, and you will never be able to say whether this is due to chronic cholecystitis or because patient has eaten. So if we give correct instruction to the patient, we avoid such problems. Similarly, here you see one of the students who was working with us never checked the history, and he has measured this rectum as long section of the uterus and cross section of the uterus when patient actually has undergone hysterectomy. So if we take a proper history, such mistakes are certainly avoidable. Looking at the artifacts here, they have forgotten that patient is wearing a pant with zip here, and the zip has come as an artifact before doing the CT scan. Then they ask the patient to remove, and then only they have performed the next CT. Now, these are different consents. So we have different consent forms in our place for CT scan and MRI scan, and the contents will be different. Plus, there is a consent here separate, which is for the contrast media, and that we get signed by the patient, witness, and the doctor. Or if the patient comes from other area, we have an interpreter also who signs here. And there is a safety checklist also for patients who undergo MRI, that they are not having cardiac pacemaker and all those things. So this is very important in taking consents of the patient before they undergo any examination. Now, as far as safety is concerned in MRI, you can see this is our door of the MRI gantry, and there's a big board put on the gantry itself. So even if any time patient has missed it, while patient is entering or the technician is entering the room, he will again check for all these things, that patient doesn't have any metallic implant or pacemaker or such devices, or he is not carrying any keys and watches and jewelry inside. Similarly, we have a written checklist also, which they tick when patient is undergoing MRI, that whether patient has aneurysm, clips, hip prosthesis, etc. And thirdly, we have this metal detector. Every patient, like aircraft, when we go for an airport, every patient who enters MRI room or every person who enters MRI room is checked with the metal detector to see that there is no metallic implant inside. Now, as safety first, as we said, and this is the most important thing for the safety, because we do have contrast media injections in the radiology department. Sometimes some sick patients are transported from the CCUs or emergency, and in our area, emergency cart is a must. So we have this emergency cart in our CT and MRI area. And here, this is the checklist, which is outside, that what all injections are there. And every few days, pharmacists come, they check for the expiry of the medicines and all that, so that emergency cart is always in place and in a working condition for any contingency or emergency which arises in those areas. This is about the pre-analytical. Now coming to the analytical steps. Now, analytical steps, the first most important thing is the quality of radiological investigation, what we do. And that is completely a different talk by itself. So I will just cover it in few slides. That positioning of the patient is very important, that the patient is positioned in a correct manner. Completion of the study, so that we are able to report the study completely. So the technician has to be sure that the study has been made complete. Extra sequences, as we discussed before. Then giving correct MA and KVP, that is factors for taking plain X-rays, use of grids to avoid scatter radiation and all is very important. And when we are giving injection of the contrast, presence of a doctor and nurse, having emergency cart in place and observing the patient for at least half an hour after the injection of contrast is very important. We do not remove the IV line till next 30 minutes after the contrast injection. Now coming to few examples of quality of the radiograph. Can you see here, this is the AP and lateral view of the knee of the same patient. The lateral view shows the bones so sharp and beautifully, but in AP view, there is some problem when they have taken the thing. Either there is some paper in between, or there is some artifact which has come, and because of that, AP view is not clear. So the quality of the radiograph has all these things which we have to take into account. Similarly, overexposure cannot give any diagnosis. Underexposed film like this cannot give any diagnosis. Here you see, this is the plain X-ray KUB, but unfortunately the upper kidney area is cut, pubic symphysis is cut. So this is not a proper positioning, if you can see. And this is a very interesting thing. When we see the X-ray like this, before labeling anything as situs inversus, because we are seeing Pundik gas bubble on the right side and the heart also on the right side, first we call the technician and ask them, are you very sure that you have placed the label correctly? And to confirm, either we take the history of the patient, sometimes there are known situs inversus, like for example, in this patient who has undergone surgery also, or we quickly take patient to the ultrasound room to check that our labeling is correct and patient really has situs inversus. So left and right labeling is also very, very important in radiology. Now coming to this proper technique. Now this is a CT scan. Nowadays we are doing lots of CT scans again because of the COVID second wave. And this is yesterday's CT scan where patient has come and he's asymptomatic but relative of a COVID mother, son of a COVID mother. So here you see that everything is looking so hazy. So you don't know whether these are ground glass opacities or it's a normal haze. I thought it looks like a normal haze, only patient has not taken good breath. For such patient, you have to ask them to repeat scan in a prone position. In 5 minutes, we repeated the scan in the prone position here, and you can see the lungs are as clear as ever. So using a proper technique, instructing the patient to take a deep breath, hold it, these are very important. And these instructions have to be given in the language which patient understands. Now coming to the reporting errors, which is very, very important and really an area of concern. The reporting errors, the important thing is that the knowledge of the radiologist matters a lot. I think it is most important that you have a radiologist who knows what he does not know. It is very important. People who think that they know everything is extremely difficult to handle. These people should know what they know and what they don't know. We should not be lazy in reading the literature. Now it is at button steps. just go to the Google search and you can find out some literature pertaining to the case. You should not shy away from taking second opinion. At like, even if I'm like last 35 years in the practice, I do not hesitate to call even my junior colleague to ask that I'm feeling it is like this, but are you sure that it looks like this? There is no harm. You should give best report to the patient, and taking second opinion is no below dignity at all. Updating the knowledge time to time is very important, because something which is constant is the change, and continuously knowledge is getting updated, and all of us have to get updated with the new knowledge. And internal and external peer review. It is easier said than done, because everybody is so busy in their own work that getting external peer review is very difficult. But luckily, because we are connected with PACS across all our hospitals, it is easy that a person can sit in his own place and see on the PACS and do the reviews. So this is another important step. Now, how to avoid redos by the radiographers? It is imperative to know the history before doing the study, so that we avoid the redos. We know what to do and what not to do. Confirming the identity of the patient, as I told you. Explanation to the patient about the study, and we should explain to the patient what cooperation we need from the patient. That is very important. Like, for example, when you're injecting the contrast, we should tell the patient that you are going to feel extremely hot, you will feel warm, but keep steady. Everybody feels like that, and reassure the patient that it will go by itself. Checking for the completion of the study is important, because otherwise patient will just go off before you have finished the study. Use the proper technique, and most importantly, training of the staff. They need revision of the old technique, and as well as they need introduction to the new techniques. Post-analytically, correct labeling of the portable X-rays and CDs is very important, because otherwise they get assigned to different patients. In that, mobile DR and CD writer, which is connected to the PACS, avoids all these problems. Correct dispatch of the reports, that means wrong film is not going in the wrong cover, and wrong report is not going along with the wrong film, is very important. And then typing mistakes, which is a nightmare for all the radiologists, and that's the Bermuda Triangle, because normal formats is the main problem. We used to always have this problem of female patients having prostate being written in their ultrasound report, or vice versa for male patients, uterus and ovaries. And that we avoided by making white color data sheet for male patients and pink color data sheets for the female patients. So that mistake was avoided to a great extent. These are the quality monitors which we see in our department, waiting time, stat, and all that. So in this, it is important that we have put a big board in our department that patients should understand that critically sick and emergency patients will be given preference, and they will have to wait for a longer time. So that time, waiting time will get increased. Radiation safety is another important area. We have to see that our radiation safety gears are in place, our TLD badges are in place, and people are using them correctly. Radiation gloves and radiation goggles are also there. Enrollment of the new recruits, and that time giving them new TLD badges is important. And quality check for radiation leaks of the department is also important. We do take training classes for the staff of radiology, OT, and cath lab every 6 months at least, to update them about radiation safety, and to remind them that you have to take care of the radiation. Legally, we have AERB, TCP/NDT, then board about declaring pregnancy, infrastructure, while we are building the department itself, quality assurance of equipment, annual and preventive maintenance, and calibration. Here are some examples. Here we have a door of our CT room and X-ray room, and where all these signs are put in bold letters that caution, this is a radiation area, and if you are pregnant, please inform the radiographer beforehand. These signs of if you are pregnant, please tell that this thing are displayed all over the department. These are the ARB certificates, and it is mandatory for each machine to be displayed in the machine room. That this is, for example, our computer radiography CT room certificate, and this has to be displayed in this manner. Similarly, all the radiologists are aware that TCP/NDT Act is very strict, and these are all the things in native language, in English, everywhere you have to do, and there are a lot of forms which we have to follow, F forms and all that, to submit to the government. So in summary, I would like to say that quality is a teamwork. From housekeeping person to the head of the institution, everybody is involved. So unless you are a team, you don't achieve the goal. We have to remember the SEEP principle that we have to be safe, and we have to be extremely efficient in giving the care. Quality monitors we can assign for our own department so that we follow the quality principles correctly. Legal requirements have to be followed, they're mandatory. Radiation safety is absolutely in the heart of radiology department, because our technicians and staff has to be safe, as well as patients also have to be safe along with their relatives. And the most important is training, training, and training. Training about the subject of radiology, training about the quality in radiology, and training about the radiation safety. These are extremely important to keep the quality in radiology up to date. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Swati. It was a wonderful talk.
You,
I mean, you were crisp, brief, and you showed our clinical pathologists and all these people that how we do it. You know, that's the way how we function in the radiology department, and a wonderful job. I think a lot of people should have learned as to what has changed in radiology. It's not the same dark room kind of atmosphere. The whole thing has shifted, and the whole thing has changed in radiology. It's a very illuminated department, and illuminated radiologists, beautiful people working in the departments, and so wonderful. It was a wonderful talk. It's a eye opener for majority of the people who listened today. And thank you so much for sharing your time and energy preparing this talk.
Up to what creatinine level imaging with contrast is allowed. So up to normal creatinine level of, in our hospital it is 1.2, we give the contrast without any problem. But after that, we always take clearance from the nephrologist. We hydrate the patient, give Bronax to the patient, take a high risk consent, and then give contrast, both for CT and MRI. And this is next question is, if a primary gravida first trimester gets seizures, what should be the investigation to be done to rule out the cause of seizures? Is depending on the neurologist and gynecologist, because if they want to see the CT scan is absolutely no. But in MRI scan, if patient, it is not proven that MRI is going to be harmful to the patient in first trimester, but at the same time, it is not proved that it is safe either. So it is preferable to do MRI if neurologist insists. But at the same time, patient has to be aware, and written consent from the patient has to be taken for doing. But CT scan certainly will harm the baby, because it's a radiation, ionizing radiation. Thank you very much for your kind patience and listening to my talk. Thank you.